Yo guys, welcome back to another video, and as you can see we've got the tier list. We've got all the units this time. Last time I forgot enemy, but this time we've got enemy in here. And you can see we've got Kurumi twice. The reason for that is we're going to place an upper meta and meta support. So first off, let's start with the units that are legit not worth going for. Just don't bother even going for them. So we start off with enemy. Beforehand he was providing support where he could actually slow units and other stuff, but he's not good. He had sleep, yeah. He had sleep, but he doesn't have that anymore. Sleep is different now, so he doesn't do that 2 second stun. So he's not good anymore. We've got next unit, and we got Goku. He fell out of. Well, he's not a good heal anymore because there's so many better heals, and you don't want to really go for him. He's not really worth going for because there's better heals. Next up, Shouten. For how long it takes to get her, she's not worth again. Then you got Chain, definitely not worth again. Ichigo, not worth. Hiei, not worth. Jiren, tournament unit, you can't really say much. And you got Kensu, or Senku, another tournament unit, so yeah, again, not worth to go for. His cosmetics kind of cool, so if you want to go for him for that, then pretty much. But in terms of use case, he's not worth. Then next we've got regular supports. We've got Gojo at the top of this. The reason for him to falling down is pretty much because of Kurumi, and you'll see what I mean. Like, if you guys have seen the showcase, if you haven't seen it, just check it out. But Kurumi is so broken. Next up, Blackbeard over here. Then we got Sweet Witch. Blackbeard just provides a better debuff than Sweet Witch, and it's on hit. And yeah, she has an ability. It's kind of cooked, It's not really that good. Then next up you got Rukia. A 1 second freeze, like a 10-second cooldown, kind of mid, Next up we've got meta supports. This place Kurumi at the very top. So we're gonna have it in two spots. We're gonna have an upper meta over here and down there. So yeah, let's put meta support. We've got Ai over here. We've got Rio over here, and then we've got Giyu, because Giyu provides a 2.9 second slow, full AoE hybrid. That's very meta, and it's only a 5.9 second cooldown. It's a local cooldown, so you can just place 3 of her. So you can have, 3 of him, so you can just use their abilities 10 seconds apart. So it's 3 placements, kind of cool. Next up, we've got Koichi and Shanks. So Shanks is slightly above Koichi because Shanks still is the only really good stun unit. 3 second stun. He might still be the only stun unit, I'm pretty sure. So 3 second stun is very good. It's kind of sad with Shanks because you need to get him to a certain upgrade, but he's still very good nonetheless. Then you got Koichi, quite cheap. You got good slow. He's hybrid, very good for that. Then next up, let's go for the. Let's go to upper meta. We've got one of the new units, Alucard. He's pretty much probably the best unit in the game. He's got bleed. He's got summons. The summons take his own damage, and he summons 13 of them. So pretty much just take his own damage stat and multiply that by 13. That's a lot. That's a lot of damage just there. You also got the fact that when his summons are on the map, you get cooldown reduction. Plus, from using his ability, he gets 50% more damage. He also does bleed, and he inflicts a debuff on all enemies. So all enemies take 10% more damage just from all sources, magic or physical. So yeah, he's definitely the very top of meta. Then second, of course, you guys do know, is still Rengoku and Akaza, the second Crusader unit. The first Crusader unit. So we got second Crusader units and the first Crusader rarity unit. He's still at the very top of meta. He's so good, Full AoE, hybrid. Well, they're both hybrid, of course. Full AoE, hybrid, burn, disorder. So much extra damage, Still such a great unit. Then third, we have Kurumi as well. She's in 2 tiers because she has meta support because she's got a time stop on placement. And then upper meta because she does a lot of damage. She's also hybrid, by the way. She can hit flying. Her clones, to be precise. Her clones can hit flying. And she just does a lot of damage, Like, after her time stop is used, the enemies that are frozen by her, after the 10 seconds are over, they take 100% of her own damage stat. So if you have Crusaders, she does so much extra damage. That's why she's at here. The next one we've got Sid. You guys know how good Sid is. He has a 22.5% chance to do, was it 200% damage? I'm pretty sure. That alone makes him such a good unit. He's also true damage. Both of them are true damage, They're both true damage units. And he's a true damage unit, plus full AoE, good range, such a good unit. Next up we have Mob. He dropped last update, and he's such a good unit. He can provide support by making all allies have 20% more damage. He can buff himself by 50% more damage. He's a hybrid. You can make him hybrid by giving him the flying thing. So you can give him a flying thing, so make him hybrid as well. He's such a good unit, He has low SPA. He has an ability which cuts down his SPA by 50%. He's such a good unit, man. He's definitely top 5 still. Then next up, right behind him, we have Reagan. Reagan has the ability where it makes him do 1000% more damage, which is 10x his damage stat. So you remember Crusaders, or even Radiant, whichever one, you can have an ability where you're just doing 10x more damage every 30 seconds, and it's just a lot of damage, you know. Such a great unit. Guess the only negative about him is he's not hybrid, so that's kind of a bummer, but he's such a good unit. He has low SPA as well. Very good unit. His DPS is not bad as well. Then next up we have Tengen. Where did I put Tengen? Am I being... Yeah, Tengen up here. He chucks marbles. He has base crit chance. He does a lot of damage. You know, he's still a good unit, you know. He's a cone AoE. Both these two are cone AoEs, you know. These two are interchangeable, but I still have Reagan slightly above Tengen. A very good unit still. Then next up, Broly. Some of you guys might be confused being him being solo, but these units are just better than him, you know. Yes, he's a full AoE, but his passive about taking 10 hits for that 200% damage is kind of weak, you know. 10 attacks take about like 90 seconds for him. That's a whole minute, 30 seconds you're waiting just to do that extra damage. And yes, he can get like extra damage with enemies in range and stuff, but Sid is like so much superior to him. Until he gets like proper magic buffers, he won't really be above any of these units. Then next up we have Sanju. He fell to the bottom of upper meta this time. He's still a great unit, having shadows that can mimic his damage stat. I think it's 60% of his damage stat. Wait, it's 30% or 60%. The base shadows and also the elite shadow from his ability can mimic his damage for 100% of his stats. And also lasts for a whole minute, so it does a lot of damage. Still a very good unit. And then next up in meta, at the top of meta, you know, I was arguing between putting him to upper meta, but it's just too crowded. He's still a great unit. I think he has his passive where he does 50% of his own damage stat to enemies when they enter his range for the first time. That's so good, yeah. For tournaments, it's so good as well. For short content, it's very good. For tournaments, it's very good. Why? Because you can pretty much just perfect wave skip a lot of waves. But I guess to a point where it's not really handy and you can't really wave skip many waves later on. And his second passive, he does more damage when enemies spend more time in his range. And since his SP is pretty high, you can pretty much make use of it a lot of the times. That's why he's still such a great unit. Then next up, a unit who fell down from upper meta is Igris. The reason for this is heavily reliant on Sanjiru. So, as a singular unit, he can't really do much. So you need Sanjiru for him to be such a good unit. But still hybrid, high DPS, he's a line AoE, does a lot of damage. Still a very good unit. Then next up we have Ghetto. You know, do I even need to say anything? He has summons, hybrid, does a lot of damage. The summons are so crazy. He's just such a great unit. Then next up we have Tanjiro. 4 placement, hybrid, good burst damage, very good unit. Can't really argue him being any lower because he's too good. And then we've got a new unit, Bones, you know, Brook. He's a full AoE. The negative about his full AoE is his range is not that crazy, but he has burn. He can get 100% crit chance, and he buffs allies as well, so he can be put in like a support, regular support. He buffs allies by reducing their cooldown by 20%, and you can have that pretty much active at all times. You know, he's such a great unit. Then next up we have Nagamo. You know, he's been getting kind of cooked over recently because there's not many unit partnerships that you can use with him. His best unit partner is still Law, and all these other units don't really partner as that well with him. So yeah, he's kind of just cooked over. And Law, you know, he's still a very good unit, man. You don't have to say much about him. You guys know he's a secret. He's a ground unit. He has a lot of DPS from his ability. Still a great, very good unit. Then next up we got King at the very bottom of meta. The reason for this, he's a hybrid. He gets this ascendant state where he just gets a lot of damage and he reduces the SPA. He does burn damage and he does more damage to freezing enemies. Well, his burn damage and more damage to freezing enemies. And he also has a lot of elements. He's got magic, rose, fire, and wind. So that just says enough. So whenever it's tournament time, if the 2 elements are buffed, he's always going to be used now. Let's see, at the very bottom of, the very top of lower meta, we've got Claw. You know, I would argue him to be higher, but the reason for this is he debuffs all allies in the range by minus 10% damage. You guys might think that's not a lot, but, you know, just debuffing your allies is kind of bad, and you can say he has the ignore shields things where you can ignore shields like passively, but you can even see in the latest game mode, the Halloween event, even if you pick 40 plus shields, you don't really need them. You know, you still can cut down those shields so easily. You have a lot of multi-hit units in this game. So that's why he's not that crazy. And he still does a lot of DPS, don't get me wrong. And that's why he's at the very top of lower meta. Then next we have Ruma. The reason for this, Ruma just has, like, he's a 4 placement. He has ability called Execute, well, in his passive, where he pretty much just insta-kills any non-boss enemies below 10% HP. But the issue with it is a 25% chance. But the fact that he has 4 placements and you can just give him overdrive and he has very low SPA, you can pretty much proc that a lot of times. So he's still very good. And next up we have NL. Hybrid. Does a lot of damage, you know, 4 placements. He has an overcharge state where you can get to like up to like 7k or 8k DPS. And his circle is very large as well. Next up we have Hiso. Full map, you know, that's enough. He just can hit full map. He's got a lot of crit in him. Such a very good heal still. Next up we have Fire Hitman. Sakamoto. Such a great unit. Low, like, he just has a lot of DPS, you know. But it takes a while to get up. That's the issue with him. That's why he's at the very lower meta. Then next up we have one of the new units, Rias. She buffs all fire allies, so pretty much she buffs Kurumi, Rengoku, Akaza. You know, these two get buffed by Rias. She buffs all fire allies by 15% range and 10% damage. So that's pretty much a very good buff for these guys because their range matters a lot for, of course, her time stop and for his full AoE. And she also does burn damage and does more damage to with fire allies in the range. Then next up we've got Choi. The reason why Choi is below all these other heals, there's one thing that makes Choi good is where he does 100% more damage to frozen enemies. And it's very hard to, I guess, pull off because she only has a 1 second freeze and she's the only freeze unit in the game. Maybe when other freeze units get added in, she can be very good. I mean, he can be very good. But it's because 1 second freeze, you know, you have to time it right. It's just hard to time right because they're only frozen for 1 second. So you really can't get off that much. And then let's see, next up we got BP unit. He's at the top of good. He's high DPS, you know, but he's very reliant on having Edward or Alphonse in his range. Alfonso. So that's why he's not really in lower meta. Then next up, we've got Toji. You know, he has different passives within each upgrade. So he doesn't really hold all his passives, but he still has bleed. He does a lot of damage. Does more damage to consecutive enemies when he's attacking the same enemies. And, you know, he just has a lot of damage, you know, low SP as well. And he pairs well with a lot of the crit relic, yeah. Next up we've got Boo. You know, he can get a clone that mimics his attack. He does a lot of damage. Still a very good ground unit. Just does not fall into lower meta or any of the meta tiers. Yeah, Rimuru. You know, his cost isn't like, he's not too expensive but not too cheap. He's pretty just like decent unit, you know. A hybrid unit, and every like, was it 200 seconds? I kind of forgot, but after a certain amount of time, he does 250% of his own damage, so 3.5x his damage. And I think with like B damage and what's that, level 60, he does 30k damage, so pretty much 3.5x that damage. You can pretty much estimate it's above 100k, so yeah, does a lot of damage as well. Next up, you have Darky. The reason she's in, or she's probably the worst heal, well, not worst heal, but the reason she has value is because she's the only heal unit that can apply bleed. Or, okay, not anymore because Alucard can apply bleed to hybrid units, but I'm saying for early game heal, to provide bleed to the early game units, she's still up there. Still a decent unit, does a lot of good amount of damage as well. Then you got Anking, he got his passives in, was it 0.5? He does a lot of damage, but the reason that he's quite low is because if you're running Sanju and Igris, he does not really get his best damage attributes. And last but not least, we've got Alphonse at the bottom of good. You can argue him being support, but his debuff that he applies to enemies, I think it's every 20 seconds he applies a random debuff, and it's pretty much random. It could be biohazard, it could be bleed, it could be burn, it could be freeze. So yeah, you can get supporting stuff like freeze, slow and stuff, but it's not really consistent. So yeah, that's what he is, and that's pretty much it for the tier list, you know. Let me know what you think about it. If you have any changes that you like to make, let me know and I'll consider them. But this is it for now. It will be left in my Discord in my sub announcement. So yeah, if you wanna just see it anytime, just join my Discord and yeah, like and subscribe and yes, I'll see you the next one. Peace.